Oh, sorry about that. I was halfway through the question. So I'm asking about Nolan Smith. You've obviously known him a long time. I was curious, from your perspective, what have you seen? What's the progress you've seen in terms of his development as a leader? Because we've obviously seen him kind of be the initiate a lot of the social justice things you guys have been doing this off season.
Well, I've obviously known Nolan for a long time, and we go back. I remember watching Nolan play when we were both in high school. This is about in 2006, 2005, and we've been obviously really close ever since then. And even when he was in college, he's always been a guy who loves to give back. It's been about more than basketball for him. I think he's a guy that not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk, and that's not a recent thing. That's been ever since I've known Nolan. And particularly, when you mentioned CL, the social injustices that have been going on, and speaking out about it as of late, he's not held back anything. Spoken from his heart. He set a amazing example for our guys as well. I think he knows we support him like crazy. The thing that's been disappointing from my point of view is the negative feedback that can come with that, and that he's got it. And that's disappointing, whether it be from Duke supporters or not. The things that he's speaking up on, and as our players have, as we all have, it's about right or wrong, speaking from their heart, speaking from our hearts. And so that aspect has been disappointing. But what Nolan has done, obviously, the longer you're a coach, the longer you're in a role, being on staff, it allows you to have better experience. And it's been fun seeing him grow as a coach alongside each other. The fact that we've been able to play together and now coach together has been something special for me. And not many guys get the opportunity to do that. It's been now about 12 years, playing together, coaching together. And obviously those years in between when we were playing professionally, we're obviously very close. So I'm proud of him, lucky to call him a friend, and so sorry for the long answer, but it deserves a long answer, because I'm really proud of what he's done and to be by his side.
And just a quick non-serious follow. You ever call him the people's champ? I've heard some people call him as that.
Look, you try as a friend not to build his head up too much. I like saying these things to you, but I try not to say it to his face too much, including the people's champ. So somebody's got to try to humble him a little bit. So I try to avoid calling him that whenever possible.
All right. Thanks, Jon.
All right, we'll go to Brendan Marks next. Brendan, go ahead.
Hey, Jon, thanks for taking the time. I saw you guys just added Trey, giving him his well-deserved spot in Cameron. And he was such a leader for you guys last year. I'm wondering, what do you think leadership looks like on this team? How is it going to be different not having the seniors that you guys had and not having Trey? And thus far, who are the guys that are stepping up, and how are they doing so?
Yeah, well, first, proud of Trey, joining the Hall of Honor. We've had a lot of great players that have come through here, but that is a big deal. He accomplished a lot last year. And I think this year it's still forming. And, the thing that we've liked seeing from four returning scholarship guys, and, Joey Baker, Wendell Moore, Matthew Hurd, and Jordan Goldwire, all of them have led in their own ways. They have different personalities. I think it's going to be something where sometimes it's by committee, because it's not necessarily one guy that's going to be the leader, the most vocal all the time. And all four of those guys are figuring out their roles on this team. They're all going to have bigger roles in different ways, but all four of them have done a great job in their own capacity.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Jim Sumner. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Jon. Good morning. I want to ask you about, you mentioned Joey Becker. I want to ask you about Joey. What are you seeing from him in practice? Is he ready to take that step from being a three-point shooting specialist to an all-around player?
Yeah, Joey, if you ask anybody in our program, players, coaches, managers, whoever it may be, they're going to rave about Joey. He's as hard of a worker as we have on the team. He's a guy who's always, if he's not the first one in practice, he's definitely going to be the last one. And he has more to his game. I think, Joey's the guy. Basically, all we have to tell him is, just relax. It's going to happen because he wants it so badly. And you love to coach a guy like that. And, like you said, he's been working hard this summer on being able to attack closeouts and put the ball on the floor and be a decision maker. Like when he's under control and gets in the paint, he can be a very good passer and playmaker for us. So, and not to mention, he's even a quicker shooter. Gets his shots off a variety of ways. He had 7 threes the other day in practice. And so I didn't want to just skip over that part because at the end of the day, making shots is a heck of a skill to have, especially for Joey.
All right, we'll go Aaron Beard, Rod Baxley, and Evan Cohen. Aaron, go ahead.
Hey, John, good to see you again. I'm wondering, you've seen the players come in and then now you're at practice. There's been a lot of adjustment on the fly with everything that's going on with COVID. How much do you think it puts you behind as a program, trying to get the normal routines done? And, the extra time you've got before the season being a little bit later starting, can you make some of that up, I guess, some of that lost time?
Yeah, Aaron, it's a great question. I think for us as a staff, we feel like in some ways we're really ahead because we just focused on ourselves and been able to be together as a group for, a couple months now. But on the flip side, you feel like you're behind in a lot of ways. It's all of a sudden we're going to be playing a game in a month, and there's no countdown to craziness in front of fans, and no exhibition games that you normally have to get your feet wet. So it's unusual in terms of that. And I think the biggest thing we tried to do is just control what we can control. And that's been showing up every day. Our players have done an amazing job of becoming focused, getting the most out of every practice. I know we've done that as a coaching staff. And I think we're going to be a team that is going to develop through the season. Of course, you guys have heard it before, but with us, 7 of our 11 scholarship players are new. And so that's going to be something for our guys. Their first game they play in compared to the 20th game or a couple months later, I think we're going to be a completely different team. So it's going to be fun to see how we develop and progress throughout the year.
Thank you.
All right, Rod, go ahead.
John, sticking with the leadership theme here, man, how would you describe Wendell's continued growth and transformation in that role, especially given his off-the-court stuff this offseason with leading marches and then being a part of the NABC Players Coalition?
Well, I think it starts with Wendell that, one, everybody respects him. He treats everyone with great respect. So when he speaks, I don't care what topic it is, everybody listens. I think that's a mark of a great leader right there. And the thing that he's done, I think at times his freshman year, he doubted himself at times, or he didn't play as aggressively as he could have. I think he'd be the first to say that. And you see this year just a newfound confidence. What he did, back home was amazing. With the peaceful protest, what he's done on the court here, what he's done organizing different things for our team, whether it be this morning when, want to bring the group in together to work out. He has done that at a much higher level this year in terms of being vocal and, like I said, being a leader for us, with not only setting, the example with his actions, but also what he says.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
All right, Evan, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for taking the time. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your role on the coaching staff and specifically with the recruiting end. Obviously, it was well publicized once Coach Capel left a few years ago, how Duke, specifically on the coaching staff, was going to change some of your roles, specifically with recruiting. So how have you sort of eased into that role over the last couple of years?
Well, I don't think it's changed much. I would say, the biggest thing, and I was very fortunate, the time I came in, 8 years ago now, as a special assistant, Wojo is still here, Cape I became very close with and got to see, and then obviously Coach James, who I've known, ever since I was a player, and just to see how those guys handle the recruiting process. Both are great recruiters. And obviously, all of us know at the end of the day, guys are coming here to play for Coach K. That is why our guys come here, and that's a big deal. And so for us, I think we have a very unique thing as a staff. When we work as a team, when one guy maybe is communicating more with the family, with the player, but all of us are involved, all of us talk about every situation. And I think that makes for a lot of success. And then not to mention Coach K and who he is and what he does and how great a recruiter he's proven to be. So it's fun. I've enjoyed it, learned a lot from Kate, learned a lot from Ojo, and, just working as a team, I would say, is the biggest thing we do really well at a high level here.
All right, next three up: Jason Evans, Brian Horace, and Vashti Hurd. Jason, go ahead.
Hey, Jon, thanks a lot for being with us. I want to ask about specific players, if I can, just for a moment. We've heard a lot on some of these calls we've had with players on the team that Matthew Hurt has been really impressive offensively. Mark Williams' size and length have impressed people. I want to know, as a coach, who has surprised you so far? Which is the guy that you look at and you go, wow, I didn't expect that guy to be able to do this soon, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, well, those two things you mentioned, first of all, are true. Matthew Hurt's been our leading scorer, if not every day, most days. He's been doing it from everywhere. He's played with, an incredibly high level of confidence, which we've talked to him about. It's been great to see. Mark Williams has been protecting the rim at a high level. He's a lob threat at all times. And just seeing the way he's moving has been very good. I'll tell you what, though, Henry Coleman has done a heck of a job. And I don't know if I'm surprised. I wouldn't say that, but he's been very impressive with what he's done in practice up until this point. He really runs the floor hard. He's a versatile defender. He's got a great attitude. He comes ready every day, great motor, great energy. And his skill set is improving and can get a lot better still. But Henry's been terrific for us so far.
And if I can follow up really quick on that, we love to talk about strengths and surprises and the such. What about weaknesses? You've seen a lot of Duke teams over the years. What do you think this team needs to work on the most, and how do you fix whatever that weakness may be?
Well, I think with this team, and we're still figuring out our lineups and rotations and all of that, but we don't necessarily have a guy we're just going to throw the ball to, and we've had some, Zion Williamson guy, or Marvin Bagley, or even Vernon last year. We're just going to throw it inside, and most of the time we're going to come away with 2 points, maybe even 3 points. And Matthew's been a terrific scorer, but he's just scoring a different way. And so I think understanding it's going to be a different team in that respect. And just like, you watch NBA playoffs, you watch anything, you need to score together. And we're going to have to do that differently this year without, the post presence of just throwing the ball inside. Mark and Pat, those guys have been really good. They're probably going to score in a different way and not just throwing the ball to them in the post. So I think that's going to be something, for us to figure out. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a weakness. I think it can be actually a strength, because that paint can be open. Our shooting is very good. And just like good old-fashioned Duke basketball, a lot of driving kicks, shoot a lot of threes, and go get offensive rebounds. So I think that's how we're looking to play this year.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right, Brian Horace, go ahead.
Hey, Jon, thanks again. So the reports coming out about this team is that there's less of a disparity in the talent. There's a lot more sort of equalness in the talent. Do you think this team has a chance to have a fairly deep rotation as opposed to some other years?
Yeah, Brian, I do. And, it's been a year where I shouldn't even say a year. It's been a couple months so far. But we're in the practices, it may be where, DJ Stewart is the best guard for a couple of days. And it's Jordan Goldwire and Jimmy Roach and Joey Baker coming on. And, Matthew's has been there pretty consistently. But I think it's less about the inconsistency of our players, and it's more than just we have some really good players. And it's not just 3, 4, 5 guys that are standing out. It's, a much deeper team in terms of the everyday production and level of their practice, level of their play in practice that we're seeing. So, again, we still have some time here for guys to separate themselves. But the way we talk as a staff, We feel like we can have a deep team. We feel like we do have a bench, well, some pop, some scoring power, no matter what, coming off the bench. So we're excited about that.
Thank you.
All right, Vashti Hurt, and then Brian McLaughlin. Vashti, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for your time. You spoke earlier about guys coming here when you were talking about recruiting to play for Coach K. I was curious how you've seen, college basketball has changed since you were a player, and how have you seen Coach K kind of evolve as a coach from a player perspective, and then from a coach's perspective?
Well, I could write a book on this one. Shorter practices now than when I was a player. Not as much yelling at the players, and no, I could go on and on. But in all seriousness, I give Coach a lot of credit. He's been, coaching here for over 40 years. And, I can only speak to what I saw firsthand as a player, even the style of play that we had, like I mentioned, even the practices, in all seriousness. The length of the practices, the kinds of things we are doing, and him adjusting to how players today need to be coached, which is different. And so even the recruiting process, Coach K and I weren't texting when I was being recruited. Maybe, can't remember if I was getting a text from him or not, but it was mainly on the phone. And so he's even, we're talking about our defense today in a staff meeting, and he's open to doing things he's never done before. And I don't know many Hall of Fame coaches, maybe the best coach ever, who's, thinking about doing something he's never done before. And I think that's a credit to Coach, and also why he's been so successful for all these years.
All right, we got time for about 3 more, so we'll go to Brian McLaughlin first. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, John, appreciate you being here. I wanted to go back to Matt Hurt. There's been a lot of talk, like you mentioned, about his improvements, the weight he's gained and all of that. But I'm curious how it's impacted his mental approach to the game, all the work that he put in the off season, and just how it's changed to his thought process.
Well, Matthew came back, and you can just see a difference with him. Like you mentioned, Brian, his body looked great. He gained weight. He was able to get in the gym throughout the entire pandemic, which is hard to do, as you know. And but the main thing for him was his mentality, and him translating how good he knew he could be to just showing it with his play. And he's come back, and he's done it every day. He's always been incredibly coachable. He's always been a hard worker. I think it's part, one, he's gotten stronger, but he's also gotten more athletic. He's, doing conditioning that he maybe didn't do last year all the time. He's getting in on zone with Coach Will Stevens, our strength coach, and all those things show up in his play. But it's the mentality that's been so exciting for us to see. And, he even, something we didn't even see watching him in high school, like he'll score and he'll talk smack. And doing some of that is we like to see with him. Didn't necessarily see that all the time last year, but I think that's part of just the transformation, from getting a taste of it last year to now knowing what to expect and what he needs to bring every day. So it's been exciting to see.
All right, last 2, Tom Shanahan and then Brendan Marks. Tom, go ahead.
Thanks for doing this. Hey, I wanted to go back to the interesting, long but interesting answer you had to Seattle question. I've written a lot of stories about white players.
I can't hear. I don't know if that's on my end or not.
Can you hear me now, John?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
A little bit.
I was just wondering, I wanted to go back to your question, to your long but interesting answer to Seattle about Nolan Smith. And I've written a lot of stories about white players that have said they've been enlightened by a lot of the Black Lives Matters movement, especially with teammates that have experienced a lot of racism. I wonder if maybe you see any of that from Nolan taking a leadership role, especially with maybe some fans that might have criticized him.
I apologize. I couldn't really hear. I don't know if I'm the only one. I heard Nolan. I know Nolan's name was in there.
So John, he asked about Nolan empowering white players who may have been taken, to act on the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, well, Nolan has definitely done that, and not only I think he's empowered everybody, black, white, whatever it may be, and I know firsthand, he's been a guy that I've learned from, throughout this, and we've, like I said, we've known each other for some time, so these aren't necessarily new conversations, but some of it is, and I think the example that he set for our players, for people around the program, again, whatever race they may be, I think it's been incredible. So to answer your question, I hope that answers your question that you're asking.
Thank you, Jon.
Thank you, Frank.
Brennan Marsh, last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, John. We've talked a lot about some of the different freshmen and DJ's shooting ability and Mark as a lob threat. You mentioned Henry, but I know Jalen had a little bit of an interrupted senior season. You had told me that he's special in transition, and I think some of his teammates have sort of echoed that thought. But what else about him stands out, and what sort of player do you envision him sort of filling? What role do you envision him filling for this team?
Well, I think Jalen, there's no question he's got the ability and the talent. And I think Jalen's just figuring out, because he can do so many things, Brendan, to answer your question, it's not like he's, exactly a 4 or a 3
Right.
or a 5. So I think his thing is just figuring out what's my core? What's my base in terms of college? What are my go-tos? And he's refining that. And, he's working on it, every day, particularly in the half court. That's something for him to work on. And he's going to be a guy that can play everywhere for us, really. But I think we need to just help him find out, all right, what's your base? And let's go from here. But it's been fun to work with. He's been doing a really good job. His passing is special. He really, if you're Joey or DJ or whoever, you like being on his team because he's going to find you.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
All right, John, really appreciate you taking the time this morning. And thanks for everyone for hopping on. Obviously, next week's schedule, I sent it out earlier this week, but we'll have Jeremy Roach available Tuesday at 11:30 and then Coach K on Wednesday at 11. So I'll send out emails about each of those separately. So again, John, thanks for your time and best of luck this season. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jon.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you
Thanks,
guys.
John. Thanks, Mike.
That's late.
Spectacular Magazine. We on the scene.